All right, welcome everybody. Today's June 4th. You got to love Pope Leo lighting up a smoke, right? That's very based, very based. We got a
Based
good,
and smoke pilled.
yeah, very smoke pill. We got a very good friend, Cade, joining us from east of the Rocky Mountains, Colorado. And he's from Minnesota, just like I am. So we're like
You
Minnesota.
betcha.
We're like Minnesota homeboys here. But Cade is going to be talking with us today about how Jordan Peterson made him leave Catholicism and ultimately become an in-between agnostic and atheist, right? So yeah, thanks so much, Cade, for coming on and having this conversation with us.
Of course, had a long day of work, and then when I saw Eric on my calendar, I was like, this will be the fun way to relax for the evening and hang out with all the homies.
Yes, I'm your escape from reality, man. You don't need booze or drugs or anything. All you need is Catholic Christian, and you're gonna get high like the Rocky Mountains, okay?
Subscribe, hit that notification bell, join the Discord server, all the things.
Okay. Now, some of our viewers, subscribers, whatever, don't know who you are. So, if you could just in a very condensed introduction, tell us who you are, where you're from, your journey to, from Catholicism to where you're at now, all that jazz. Just a little.
In the beginning, no, I'm just kidding. Um, Grew up in the western suburbs of Minneapolis in, as people like to say, a moralistic, therapeutic, deistic type of household, vaguely Catholic. Conservative Protestants always love throwing that phrase out there. They think that they learned everything. So I like to appropriate the phrase, but grew up vaguely Catholic. In seventh grade, realized I was gay, but didn't come out. And then into eighth and ninth grade, started attending my local youth group. And I was like, I'm making friends. I'm getting to read all the apologetic books, and then like took a hard right into the traditional Catholic movement. Became a fraternity only type of guy. Flirted with the SSPX and all of the other four-letter alphabet soup type of groups, and then it's like the federal government, and I don't know why all of the Latin mass societies all have four-letter acronyms. Like they're not three, it's not five. Somehow it always comes out to four, which makes it slightly easier. And then wanted to discern to become a Carmelite monk. That didn't end up working out. Then went off to college to pursue my degrees in theology and philosophy. And then 2 years ago, kind of went through the ideas. Bro was on with Joe. Yes, that is correct. And oh, Luke finally made it. My friend Luke Robinson there in the chat.
Yeah,
I
Luke.
I saw him right before this. We were both watching Stephanie Gray on Pints with Aquinas beforehand. And then I was like, wait, Luke's here as we were texting. So we're both texting and watching Pints with Aquinas. But story ends with me leaving Catholicism 2 years ago after going back to the beliefs with a fine-tooth comb. And then a year ago, I randomly made YouTube videos, and then they've kind of been growing since. Oh my gosh. It's like somebody, Eric, did you pay this person? Is this person a paid plant to lead into the topic of the conversation?
Dude, you have it figured out. Dude, I've been planning this for weeks, son. Yes, this is the infamous Cade, the first one to grill, saute, and deep fry Jordan Peterson to a burnt crisp and whatever you got. Yes, this is
Destroyed
Cade.
with seed oils.
Stay away from the seed oils, guys. It'll turn you into a zombie. But yeah.
Right
But
to
yeah,
jail.
this is Cade. Sorry to interrupt. Can you finish your introduction?
No,
We're
that was
sorry.
that.
Oh,
That's the whole trajectory. We started from in the beginning all the way to present day, and now I have the supreme honor of talking to the one and only Catholic Christian on his live stream. With now Luke's probably gonna be clip farming me. So
yeah. Hey, Luke, good to have you here, man. This is your friend Cade. He's always welcome, and we want to welcome any of his friends and viewers and subscribers. So we're all in this together. But okay, let us just kind of cut to the chase and get to the point where you are a fan of Jordan Peterson, not just a fan, but you are, I mean, digesting and inhaling all of his material and talks and stuff like that. So why don't you just tell us how that started, how you got into Jordan Peterson, and then, well, how did he make you leave Catholicism?
Luke's here's my fact checker. Um, I read Jordan Peterson. Let's see, he came to fame late 2010s, talking to Kathy Newman and doing all of this like Bill C-16 in Canada, and I'd read some of his work and seen his lectures. As I got super Catholic, I stopped listening to a ton of him because it was kind of like, wait, this guy isn't too orthodox when you think about it. And then like when you really like break down the words, except for like you got the Daily Wire behind him, you got all these groups that love him, and then you kind of read his work and you're like, I don't know about this. And then I picked him back up as I was like going through the deconstruction process. I was actually in Utah a ton at the time for work, and so I was talking to a bunch of Mormons, was talking to random people on the internet. Um, Luke's got the good commentary here today. And then I read Maps of Meaning. I think it was as I was leaving Catholicism, and he was talking about the Eucharist. He was talking about psychology. He was talking about what God is to a number of different people. And I found Maps of Meaning to be very different than most of his modern work. In most of his modern work, he tries to like hide his so what and is vaguely right wing. In Maps of Meaning, he's just a random psychology professor in Canada at the time. So it's interesting watching like his books and how he talks evolve over time throughout his books. And then he put out We Who Wrestle with God, which I was reading in preparation for the debate. And I got maybe a quarter of the way in before it got way too tautological for me. Like once you understand what Jordan Peterson's saying, you feel like the spinning beach ball of death on a Mac computer when it starts freezing. He just kind of like hits the same two talking points. He's a two-trick pony of sorts.
Sorry, I'm not trying to laugh, but what you're saying, I can resonate with, man, a lot.
Yeah.
I see in him, and I haven't read all of his books and been inundated with his stuff, but I can absolutely relate just from the little that I've been exposed to.
Yeah, and then it all culminated with getting to talk with the one and only Jordan Peterson in LA, which was a blast.
Yeah, can I just go back a little bit?
Mhm.
Can you tell the audience? So you were no lukewarm cafeteria Catholic, at least in that span you're referring to. You were discerning the Carmelite religious life. You
Mhm.
were going to daily mass. You were praying, I believe, Lectio Divina and maybe
Of
Liturgy of the
course.
Hours, all the rosary, 2 hours of prayer. So you weren't. This isn't like I'm a lukewarm cafeteria Catholic. Oh, I read Jordan Peterson and all of a sudden I'm an atheist. It wasn't like that, right?
Yeah. Well, as Taylor Marshall says, pray the rosary every day or not on the team. And so I was doing, depending on how conservative I was, either 3 or 4 of the mysteries every day. You know, those luminous mysteries. I don't know if we can really take them. It messes up the whole Marian Salter type of idea when you have now 20 decades instead of 15. So, Luke, do you just log in with your other account? You have both your media account and your
Hey,
personal account going?
we're okay with it. If you got 3 or 4 accounts, get them all in here.
Yeah, it's gonna be like 70 viewers, and they're all gonna be versions of Luke's
That's
accounts
fine.
here.
That's fine.
Um, yeah, and then Luke and I went to college together, and so we would pray lauds at like 5 a.m. with the little office of the Blessed Virgin Mary. And then Luke would often come over to my apartment and then fall asleep on the couch in very awkward positions, like a crime scene. And then, um, and then somehow he would wake up at random times and then just like snap back to reality, and then next office.
So, Luke, you said you went to, I'm sorry, high school or college with him?
College together out at the one and only John Paul the Great Catholic University of Entrepreneurship and Art. Very long title. Or did I switch those two up? But yeah, so we went to college together, and then he got into film, and I was in film, and then we've stayed in touch since then. And today, Luke was texting me running questions that dare not be mentioned on the internet. Um, Running does the number on your feet, and so there are many medical questions involved in long distance running.
Okay. Gosh, I almost kind of want to get Luke up here for like a minute. I won't.
Get Luke up here.
No. It's okay. But you guys have stayed in touch
Yeah.
and are good friends still, and that's great. That's great. That's awesome. That's awesome.
So you want to get him up here? We can do a quick 5 minute foray into Catholic college.
Oh man. So okay, should we now? If you're okay with this, because
Yeah.
we're gonna watch some Jubilee footage here eventually, guys. So we're just building it up, okay? And then we're gonna deliver. We're gonna watch Cade be his celebrity self on Jubilee and grill Jordan Peterson and make Jordan Peterson very uncomfortable, or at least he was definitely challenged. I know that for sure. So I in that sense I appreciate it. But Now here's the thing, Cade. You made published a video. It's called Why Jordan Peterson Made Me Atheist.
Mhm.
And I watched the whole thing. I think it was 36 minutes or something like that. And I mean, we can agree to disagree on some certain things. Fine. But I appreciate it because I think it gives us a good perspective on maybe Jordan Peterson's, I don't know what he's trying to do or why he does what he does. Because here's the paradox of it. Apparently, a lot of people are coming to Christianity because of Jordan Peterson. That's another topic.
Mhm.
And then there are people like you have left Christianity because of Jordan Peterson. To me, that's polarizing, extremely polarizing. And I want to get down to like, what is going on here? Would you be okay if we just played
Mhm.
maybe a few minutes of that video?
I promise I won't copyright strike and claim the monetization.
Oh, that's fine. You can. You get
Kevin's here.
Oh yeah,
We got a whole
Kevin.
party in the
Oh
chat.
yeah, your fan base, bring them, please, bring them all. Tell your mom and dad, everybody, your mailman, get your mailman on here, man. Okay,
It's
so
probably sexist these days. You're gonna get canceled for calling it a mailman.
oh yeah, well, they can sue me. Okay, guys, so this will give you a little bit of context, and then we'll grill Cade after this. So now here's the
Like
thing, though.
Saint Sebastian, and I'll just yell, "Flip me over" after you start grilling me.
Oh, that's St. Lawrence, but yes,
Lawrence, oh,
it's okay.
mea
It's okay.
culpa.
It's okay. It's okay. Confessions tomorrow. Don't worry about it. Here's the thing, though. You went on Jubilee to debate Jordan Peterson
Mhm.
probably a month and a half ago, right?
Uh, yeah, what were recording dates? Would have been, I think, closer to 2 or 3 months ago.
Oh,
They give us production dates, and then they don't tell you when the debates go live. So, like with Michael Knowles, when I debated him, that was live in like 2 weeks after, and Peterson was a good 3 months, for sure 2 months. Um,
wow. So again, for all those in the viewers comments section, all that jazz. So Cade has debated Michael Knowles and Jordan Peterson. I don't care who you are, what you believe, or all that stuff. To go up against those two dudes, like I agree with Michael Knowles. I don't want to debate that dude. You know what I mean? Like I'm a little intimidated, but all right. So this is some good stuff. This will give you guys some context on why I left Jordan Peterson behind. That is Cade.
Explain as somebody who's
turn it up.
read all of Jordan Peterson's books, Maps of Meaning, 12 Rules for Life, Beyond Order, as well as We Who Wrestle with God. And I could barely make it through that. I want to explain why I've left behind Jordan Peterson. Because up to this point in this video, I've given Jordan Peterson some credit, and I think it's deserved. Not because he's progressive, he isn't, and he's regressive and conservative in many ways, but because I was so far right, that so extreme into religion, that even Peterson was a step towards moderation. If the average left-wing person's a 1 on the scale, and Jordan Peterson's a 5, but I was a 10, Peterson's moving me towards 1. He didn't bring me from belief to directly to atheism, but he brought me from extreme dogmatism to something less rigid, something more negotiable. But
Okay, I want to talk about that. So
Mhm.
Jordan Peterson brought you from dogmatism into something less rigid. Now, I'm not going to make any unjust speculations about what was going on in you internally. That's not what I'm here for. But you know who Carl Jung is, obviously.
Of
Right?
course.
Yeah, and then Immanuel Kant. So
Indeed.
yeah. Because they were big. Well, at least Immanuel Kant, I'm more familiar with. He was really big into taking the public revelation, dogmatization, ecclesiastical elements in nature, and reducing it more so to like a personal religious experience. So is there some of that going on here with what Jordan Peterson prompted you to do?
Um, yeah, I mean, I think what Jordan Peterson, like I said, he brought the title of Jordan Peterson made me an atheist is pedantic, but not disingenuous. But the point being, what he did is kind of cracked the shell of viewing religion as the Catholic Church has the fullness of truth, what the Catholic Church says is true, and that we can't negotiate with the experience of God. And I think the lens that I saw then religion through is one of investigation and to approach it in an academic matter, and to allow, or essentially, my central claim in that video is that Jordan Peterson showed me that all the benefits of a religion were natural, and that there's nothing natural about religion. And that then allows one to negotiate with those religious beliefs and the religious groups that one is a part of, in which ones people can pick and choose. Yeah, so it's kind of like he didn't show me that religion was bad. He just showed me that religion is something that we negotiate and change over time.
Okay. Yeah, let's go on with the video. I just wanted to bring that up. Okay, but I just want others to know as well, like, Cade wasn't your normal Catholic, right? You were familiar with St. Thomas Aquinas' Summa, right?
I got the entire thing printed off. It's about this thick.
Right. So I mean, Cade knows his stuff, when it comes to St. Thomas Aquinas's, alleged proofs for the existence of God, natural theology, natural reason, stuff like that. So yeah, that's a good thing. You're not just like this naive guy that's gonna let Jordan Peterson, play you like a fiddle or anything. But let's continue that.
Here's my problem with Peterson. Peterson grifts in the most technical definition of the word. He's smart. He knows his audience. He knows what his audience believes, and he knows what he believes. Jordan Peterson doesn't believe in God in the same way that other people do. He says he believes in God, but what he means by this is totally different than how he knows that his audience that gives him money means. When most Christians say God, they mean a supernatural, all-powerful being who intervenes in the world. But Peterson, he means a metaphor, a value structure, storytelling, meta-ethics, meta-narratives, whatever it is. He knows
that right there. I couldn't agree more with. And that's the impression that I got when he was on Jordan Peterson versus 20 atheists, or one Christian versus 20 atheists. Like, it's just this, like you brought up meta ethics. It's this Kantian meta ethics, right? Where it has nothing to do with public revelation, ecclesiology. It's just this, it's reduced to, like you were saying, storytelling, meta narratives and stuff like that. And it just seems like a analyzing of, what elements you can take out of, like, the religious milieu and help you in a hierarchical way to flourish as a human being. But we don't really need, this strict dogmatic definition of God, who he is, what he isn't. Am I kind of hitting that a little bit?
Yeah, and it is to approach the divine as a sort of anthropological investigation versus a divine revelation, or reasoning one's way, as Thomas Aquinas talks about, like the qualities of God. That's like one way of approaching religion, and then there's, let's just investigate religion as a phenomena that exists in the world.
Right. What do you mean in the world? How do you define world? I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. There's some guy in the chat.
What do you mean by the?
Oh gosh. I mean, okay, I just want to get this out. We all have to get our terms straight and our definitions qualified and all that stuff to an extent. But, like, come on, dude, right? Did you get that vibe from Jordan? Like, what, really? Like, every single word we're gonna find the etymology and how it gets translated.
I like Giovanni's comment of, what do you mean by what do you mean?
There you go.
This is the perfect Peterson regression into not having to answer a question.
Yeah. Oh man, crazy.
Knows that. He dodges every question about belief. When someone asks him, do you believe in God? He responds with, what do you mean by do? What do you mean by me? What do you mean by God? Like, dude, you know what people mean when they're asking you that question. You just don't answer, because your entire brand and money and career depends on people assuming that you're on their side. And so, yeah, I think he's grifting. And that's one reason why I walked away. The second, once you learn how to translate Peterson's verbose language that sounds smart, sounds intellectual, that uses big words, and you learn how to translate that down to what he's actually saying, he stops sounding smart. You realize it's just a few simple ideas dressed in needlessly confusing jargon to sound smart. I've read, like I said, all of his books. And once you know how to decipher what he's saying, once you know the code, it's all kind of boring. It's repetitive. It's tautological. It's uninspiring. It's nothing new. I could barely make it through We Who Wrestle with God, because once you realize what he's saying, it just goes in circles. It's nothing new. He's not making new arguments. He's just repeating the same structure over and over again. And third, and most.
So I got to ask you this, Cade. Why do you think people? Because I agree with you, but why do you think so many people latch on to him and have this stark affinity towards him? What is it?
I have a friend who attended Peterson's recordings of the Peterson Academy, and there's these long lectures that they filmed in a, to probably say, a generic state. And he was like, I don't know exactly what he was saying, but like I was fascinated by it, and I didn't really understand it, but like it sounded really smart. And I was like, I think that's most people's understanding of Peterson is like he sounds smart. Many people on the internet say that Jordan Peterson is the smart or what a dumb person thinks a smart person sounds like, because and that's what people say on the internet. I won't say my own thoughts on it, but I'm just reporting on what people say. Um, no, Eric was not in Ohio. Um, but it's just most people when you listen to Peterson, like it's really hard to track unless you've had somebody like explain it to you beforehand. You just kind of sit there mesmerized by the number of concepts that he can like connect. But if you ask the average Peterson fan to like after they read a chapter of a book and then you go, tell me what this chapter just said, they're gonna have no clue where to start. Or a Peterson lecture, and you're like, can you break this down for me? They'd go, oh man, no, it was crazy, man. Like, and so I think it's just most people don't track what he's saying because it is so verbose and needlessly verbose. But it's a sort of a sort of spectacle, which all these terms are just grasping at the idea of sophistry, which also unnamed people on the internet have also called it that.
Okay, so you just brought up a buzzword that got my ears just perked. You said sophistry. Now, a lot of people toss that word around. They don't really know what it means or what it alludes to. And guys, if you know anything about Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle, that's what they fought. Okay, metaphysics is the highest science. Okay, they used metaphysics to try to argue and defend while arguing and attack and destroy sophistry, that which is moral relativism, skepticism. Okay, yeah. So I couldn't agree more with you. If you know your philosophy like really well, you, I don't want to label Jordan Peterson as a sophist, but I just I I don't know how you don't. Like, I don't. Would you agree or?
Yeah, it's and maybe my larger criticism of Peterson is that the concepts that he talks about are the things that you hear at like super woke rainbow Presbyterian seminaries. Like this idea, like, did
Ooh.
Christ bodily rise from sophistry? Thank you, Eric. Or um but the concepts that he talks about, like, did Christ bodily rise from the dead? Like you expect that to like hear that from some female pastor, which I think is based. But like all these things that Peterson talks about, if they weren't used in service of a right-wing conception of religion, he would just get labeled as liberal. But somehow, if he looks conservative enough and talks to conservatives and people interpret as conservative, then conservatives are a fan of him. It strikes me as odd the incongruity between like the hidden so what and like the ideas that he talks about don't match up because I like Peterson's framework for explaining religion when I talk to people, and I know a lot of very progressive Christian pastors that love Jordan Peterson's interpretation of religion. Um, it seems like the only people that know what he's saying are people that have deconstructed in some form, which I find rather amusing.
Yeah, yeah. Let's let the video play for. I think people are itching for this Jubilee showing. I don't know if they've seen it or not, but
Unfortunately, Jordan Peterson has terrible takes, like flat out harmful on many things. I don't understand how you go from like biblical metaphors directly to attacking Elliot Page's doctor on Twitter, or I don't know how you go from Russian literature directly to like screeching about climate change. Or I don't know
sorry.
how you go from like Carl Jung directly to like conspiracy brained culture war talking points. It's drawing and disingenuous. He strikes out at the most random things outside of his purview, and he demands complexity on religion. And he's too much complexity anytime he complains level. But he's not willing to have that same complexity and nuance granted to trans people. He dodges complex questions about God, and he criticizes other people that criticize religion because he's an expert in religion. But when he criticizes other issues, he's not an expert on gender, climate, politics, any of that. He throws out opinions with total confidence, yet they often hurt people. And he constantly naturalizes hierarchies and sees vestigial hierarchies as endemic to the human condition, whether that's class, race, gender, social status, money. And while he stops short of saying anything outright racist, or that these structures can never change, all of his work implies that he wants to preserve all of these functions and all these hierarchies. It's all about order versus chaos, but sometimes the order that he's clinging to and that he's defending is the very thing that holds us back from building a better world. And at the end of the day, even though I agree with maybe 94% of what he says on descriptive ideas, his takes on how religion is a psychological phenomenon, or how we see archetypes in literature, or how belief affects sociology, it's like the remaining 6% where we part ways. His prescriptive statements are vague, they're reactive, they're often harmful, they dodge questions, they're not grounded in anything. They're just like these random like outshoots of his descriptive claims. They're not evidence-based. They feel like ideological whack-a-mole, latching out at whoever he doesn't like in a particular week on Twitter. Like, get
Oh my goodness. I might have to let me rewind that. Hold on.
questions, they're not grounded in anything. They're just like these random like outshoots of his descriptive claims. They're not evidence-based. They feel like ideological whack-a-mole,
Ideological whack-a-mole.
latching out at whoever he doesn't
Whack-a-mole.
like in a particular
Oh,
week on
God,
Twitter.
dude,
Like, get back to the serious academic stuff. That's like really impactful. Not ranting on Twitter about random gender-affirming care in people's breasts. And worst of all, he wants more religion, but he's never been religious. He doesn't know what it's like to live every waking moment ensconced in these books on Aquinas and reading the Summa and Augustine and actually submitting to God. To have your identity shaped by theology, to suffer for it. I've done that. I was that. But Jordan Peterson has never been that. He has his wife that's Catholic. He has friends that are religious, but he's not religious. He doesn't attend religious services. He doesn't plant his flag in anything. So he gets to sit on an island of one where everybody's doing it wrong except for Jordan Peterson. He's got this.
Okay, I see where you're going with this. So Jordan Peterson, right, is setting himself up where he doesn't go too far. He doesn't cross any line or get involved in any kind of religious milieu or, like sect or church or anything like that. So, but that gives him enough leeway to criticize and to, you know what I mean? Where he doesn't bind himself to anything, so he can criticize everyone that binds themselves to something, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, he likes to flirt with various religions and be associated in non-firm ways, which allows him to like tell the left, like, oh, you got to listen to these religious people over here. And then any criticism of that, he's just like, well, I didn't say like all of it. Right. And so and then the right, he can like criticize a little bit on like fundamentalism, and then it's just like it's weird when people have like main character syndrome and just like everybody in the world is dumb except for me and everybody has it wrong. Is always an interesting like place to be in on something like religion. It just seems such like a weird position for him to be in, because he's never locked down on anything and he gets to operate in this gray zone for his entire career.
Yeah. Oh gosh, it's hard not to make speculative, judgments and unjust suspicions. It's just like, gosh, what? Because like we want to give him the benefit of the doubt, and a lot of Catholic apologists are saying like, hey, Jordan Peterson, he's seeking God, he's on his own spiritual journey. You got to kind of give him some room and pray for him and all this stuff. And well, I'm just curious, like, I don't want to say he's weaponizing Christianity and using it as a tool for his own, like, gain in career motives. I don't know, but it's really weird because we fight modernism and indifferentism like for the last 150 years. And it almost seems like he doesn't commit himself to something because he likes to be on that island of indifferentism. So then, like you said, he can criticize everybody, because who's going to criticize someone who's indifferent? He doesn't have a confession, a creed, a church or anything that someone can actually criticize him for. So maybe this is all just some sort of like psychoanalyzing like trick of deception, like he's doing on all of us. Like, just what is going on here?
When you make tens of millions of dollars, there's perhaps some motivated reasoning to muddy the water on what you actually think and sell what you think people want. I don't know about you, but if I had millions and millions of dollars on the line, I too may be susceptible to like, we could rephrase that, or we could like workshop that one a little bit more. Like, I mean, I don't think like you woke up and invented this like crazy plan. I think every content creator has some sort of audience feedback and some sort of vested interest over time, especially when you're doing dozens and dozens of millions of dollars.
Right. And guys, in the chat, as you're watching this isn't like a Jordan Peterson bash stream. Okay. Well, maybe.
I was about to say, depends on what you mean by bash, and depending on what you mean by stream.
How do you define bash? I mean, oh my gosh, it's all gray, man. No one knows anything. But yeah, but no, for real. Like I was saying in another stream that, I love Jordan Peterson as a human being. I want his good. I want him to do the right things and all that stuff. But again, there are things I kind of don't appreciate, and I'm really trying to figure out why he's doing what he's doing in the way that he's doing, and why my close relatives love the dude. I don't understand it. I don't get the hype. I don't. What is it? like,
He just sounds smart and says the right talking points. And then it's like step 1, begin talk. Step 3, make a few $1 million pushing conservative talking points. Step 2, unclear.
Right. Yeah. Here, let's finish this and then we'll do the Jubilee.
Weird complex where he thinks he's the sole person on planet Earth that has finally figured out how to do this stuff. It's like having a personal trainer that never works out, or a financial coach that is deep into debt. Like, you want somebody that's done the things and he's never been religious. I've always joked that I'd love to start a charity of taking all of these people that like promote religion and tell people to go to church, and actually taking these people to church. Like the people pushing and peddling religion, I want to take them to church and to show them like what it's actually like, because there are pros and cons on both sides. And so, yeah, that's why I say Jordan Peterson made me an atheist.
Okay. Good stuff, my friend. Insofar as you're being transparent, honest, and giving it to us straight. You're a straight-laced guy. I love it. I appreciate it.
Ironic.
Appreciate your integrity. Oh, wow. Here we go. Our good boy Retro.
Yeah.
I don't know if this question is for you. It might be. I'm guessing it is, but I'll just read it and then you can think about it. Thank you, Darren, for your support. We love you. You keep this channel going. You keep my lights on, and I can buy diapers now. So what precisely is the nature, the logos of this phenomenon termed super? Okay, this is
a Jordan Peterson joke.
I'm like, I don't know, Cade, this might be for you, but what psychological underpinnings motivate people to engage in such a transaction, to elevate their words above the ephemeral stream of consciousness that defines the digital public square? Dude, hey, Retro, do you have books? Do you have talks? Because I'm sold. I'm in. I just drank the Kool-Aid. The Kool-Aid so smooth. Goes down so smooth.
People are waiting for Jordan Peterson versus 20 Christians as the new joke on the internet. Because originally it was 1 Christian versus 20 atheists, and then it was Jordan Peterson versus 20 atheists. And so now people are joking. Now we need Jordan Peterson versus 20 Christians, or 20 Jordan Petersons versus 1 Jordan Peterson, with just clips of him talking and contradicting himself.
Yeah. I want to see Jordan Peterson against like 20 psychologists or lawyers or something. But okay, Retro wants me to do this in the Jordan Peterson voice. Oh gosh. Dude.
Like, what precisely is the nature of the logos in this phenomenon termed super chat? You just have to do like a very high Canadian accent.
I can't. What? I can't even. Dude, it's so bad.
You went the opposite direction.
Is the nature, the logos of this phenomenon? Whatever. I tried, Darren. I tried. Okay, I tried, but yeah. Sorry. I don't really need to. Okay, I just embarrassed.
Of course, he says it after you do it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, dude. You know what that is? That's the Jordan Peterson Jedi mind trick. He just pulled it on me. All right. So, oh gosh, how are we going to do this, Cade? This is going to be fun. This is going to be your escape from reality today. So our good friend Cade was on Jubilee for a second time, guys. His first time he debated Michael Knowles from the Daily Wire, who is a practicing Catholic. And Cade, can you remind us what you debated Michael Knowles on?
1 conservative versus 25 LGBT activists. So it was a very interesting episode. A bit of a PR disaster because Michael Knowles low-key wiped the floor during the debate and did incredibly well. And so Michael Knowles and I have talked since. We were looking at setting something up, and then now magically he stopped responding to emails. But fingers crossed, one day we might get, because he told me afterwards, you got this indelible mark on your soul. You can never be an ex-Catholic, and then emailed after saying, like, if there's anything I can do to erase the term former from your label, let me know. So him and I have talked a whole 2 times via email since then.
But dude, that's impressive, because that's 2 more times than all of us. That's really impressive, man. Yeah. Well, does anyone know Michael Knowles in the chat? Maybe we can get Cade and Knowles back on the correspondence train.
Some W's in the chat.
Big W, huge W, a very infrequent, rather uncommon, almost quasi rare W.
Yes.
Okay, you know what? Live streams don't really get monetized all that much, so I'm just like, let's just play the stinking clip. And if I have to clip it out, whatever, you know? I'm not going to stop it every 9 seconds, or should I? Or what? No.
That's up to you. Jubilee is very aggressive with their demonetization of other people, which is I have to zip my mouth on Jubilee related things. But
Yeah.
anything 10 seconds over will get potentially flagged by them. But the question is, if the stream gets 1,000 views, are you okay with donating them $4 in exchange?
Gosh, dude, that's just like, the richest, greediest people, right? They're the stingiest ones. They are the ones that steal the towels from the hotels.
The hotels.
Oh my gosh, dude. Anyways, so I'm just gonna play it. Because we're having fun. And yes, I have 10 million subs, and Jubilee only has 17,000 subs. Yeah, that's correct. All right. Here it is. Cade on Jubilee, grilling, debating the one and only Jordan Peterson. Let me just make sure let's see. Okay, we're on normal speed. Everything's good. Closed caption or non-closed caption? What do you think?
Probably with closed captions, because then if you ever have to mute the audio for copyright reasons, people can still see what is happening.
Okay. Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but I just dude, you can't say that about anybody. Your aim was off and it's probably still off. Dude, you can't say that. Gosh. Should I just let the whole clip play? I'm sorry. I don't want to.
No, you can. This is your stream, Eric.
I know, but you lasted. When did you start? I think you started at like a minute. 7 minutes, man.
The actual recording is longer than that. I'm trying to think, what can I say about production on stream that doesn't break an NDA? They slightly edit the conversations. I've never watched one of the conversations and been like, oh, they like cut out a banger one-liner there. They do shorten it, and so I think I was just over like 11 or 12 minutes with Peterson. And this particular episode had the lowest number of people talking and the longest duration of people talking on average. Most of their surroundings, like with Charlie Kirk, are 3 to 4 minutes, and just like you see the same people popping up a bunch of times. Like with Knowles, I talked with him 3 times. 2 of them made the final cut. But on this episode, we really weren't voting people off. We let people speak for 10 plus minutes at a time. And so it was nice to just to be able to dive a little bit more into substance, which was kind of a nice change of pace for this particular format.
So when you brought up archetypes and metaphorical substrates, he was thinking like, oh my gosh, this dude's read all my books.
Oh shit.
Oh man, what am I getting into? Oh, that was
Yeah.
You did really well. I really appreciated how cordial and charitable you were, and civil. Just, because hey, a lot of us disagree on many things. And I think honestly, this group of people is in terms of just being respectful and cordial, they did pretty well. In contrast with some of the other Jubilee crowds I've seen, it gets pretty nasty.
Yeah, and it does everybody a disservice where these debates are very much like an extreme sport where your brain is firing on all cylinders, like leading up to these debates and then the day of. It's crazy what your body goes through when you're realizing like 5 million plus people are going to see this. And so in the actual debates, your brain's firing on all cylinders, but it is foggy as possible, and you're not able to like think very quickly on your feet. And most of the debates happen just by instinct. Like after I got done talking with Peterson, I had to like remember what all I said that's up there. Like it just doesn't compute what that experience is like. And when people start getting emotional and heated in discussions, then like the amount of room in your brain for critical thinking like keeps getting smaller and smaller on an already limited brain. And you're gonna do worse by getting emotional. Like they want you to get emotional because it helps them because your brain's gonna be thinking less. And so just don't get emotional and you're going to be able to make better arguments.
Absolutely. I can't tell you how, oh gosh, that's the downfall of any interlocutor is when they start taking things personally and really emotionally, because the rationality just diminishes by the minute. you
Mhm.
know yeah, so no, but I appreciated how you debated him, and I mean it was respectful and everything. So but yeah, guys, if you want to ask Cade anything on his
Send a
journey.
super chat.
Oh, that too. That too. Yeah, I paid Cade to say that. But
We got a revenue cut going on.
yes, we gotta stick it to Jubilee. But yeah, guys, if you have any questions for Cade, very interesting and polarizing, if I may say, in a good way. Kind of just a journey in life, So, I mean, yeah, can you maybe talk a little bit, if you want,
Mhm.
about your SSPX endeavors or experiences there?
A lot of fraternity parishes are built out of SSPX families. So, like, the process to get a fraternity apostolate is that there has to be a certain number of families that are already together, and they're like, we sign up to adopt one fraternity priest, and we'll sign the dotted line and make this all worth the fraternity's worthwhile. And so, a lot of the times, especially with older fraternity parishes, the families that start them have already been attending the society, and then they go like, we want to have a little bit more legitimacy, so if we bind together, then we're going to establish this fraternity parish. And so a lot of those families are kind of moving both directions with the fraternity and with the society. And so a lot of fraternity parishes are split over the people that also attend the society or people who only attend the fraternity. um, and my own flirting with kind of alternative Catholic movements, a very interesting thing to talk about for people of sedevacantism, where to an extent I think sedevacantists get many things right. Where I think historically, if we look at a plain text interpretation of magisterial statements, they do seem to contradict, in that they do seem to be hearkening back and have changed in some real sense. But the weird thing is that, like, why stop at the 14th century, the 16th century? Like, if we read these documents that are literally, then like the church would have apostatized in like the 9th century, the 8th century, or God forbid we have the Mormon great apostasy. Like, it becomes this infinite regress of like plain text readings of texts. But it is quite jarring to go from the Catholic Answers style. The church has never changed. It might have developed its doctrines. It may have failed in the past to enumerate certain nuances. Um, but it was quite a weird internet crisis in the middle of lockdown to be finally watching like sedevacantist materials and had a long conversation with a fraternity priest. But it is quite jarring when you start reading very old documents.
Yeah, yeah. Was there a specific examples? So I can empathize with you.
Mhm.
Obviously I don't agree, but I can empathize with you. And is there specific examples of doctrines or dogmas that seem to contradict, and it's not just like a mere development of nuance and
Mhm.
fleshing out its context and consolidating its meaning? Are there things that like you really struggled with, or specific examples there?
I mean, the go-to that a lot of sedevacantists will talk to is either the subsist of or versus subsist in type of controversies, talking about the salvation, right? Who can and can't be saved, this idea of invincible ignorance. It seems like, and maybe the really complicated thing is that you can make texts say a lot of different things. And you can say that a particular text is not exhaustive of the concept that is being communicated. And so if we always have that gray zone, I see how a Catholic Answers apologist can string them together. But I think that if you were to bring a Catholic Answers style apologist into the 13th century, talking to very conservative doctors of the church, I can't imagine that they'd get along like, ah, that's what I meant like the whole time. I just forgot to write that part down.
I'm not laughing, but I am, because I have, and I don't know if they're on here, but I have some guys your age that are really into tradition, manuals, St. Thomas Aquinas, neo-scholastic Thomism, all that stuff, to the point almost, and I don't mean to bash them, to the point where they undermine Catholic answers and they think they're a bunch of pop apologists. You know what I mean? So it seems like there's this dichotomy contrast going on. And I would say, yeah, like a lot of people, it's really hard on the surface, on the literalistic surface, to have these be complementary or have Vatican II jibe with the Council of Florence when we're talking about who is and who isn't saved. You know what I mean? And it has scandalized many Catholics. A lot of people have left the church externally, but more so internally since Vatican II and just what Vatican II has to say, especially Lumen Gentium. They just, to them, it's a huge stumbling block. They can't understand it at all because it's like, well, what about the Council of Florence saying they're all going into the everlasting fire? And now all of a sudden they got a get out of hell free card. What's going on here?
Or if Kevin's still watching, shout out Kevin Non-Tradicath has a video on how the early church talked about sexuality, how that's developed over time. Is a very interesting development. And obviously, the councils aren't specifically talking about this, but what couples are and aren't allowed to do, where or how and to what degree various things are sinful, and even is sex an intrinsic good? Or is sex this like put on a blindfold and hold your nose and like get it over with for the sake of procreation? Seems to be a much more seems to be an idea much more commonly held in the early church and even through Alphonsus Liguori, and then to kind of do this JP2 era sexual ethic seems like JP2 in many ways would be crucified, perhaps even upside down by somebody like Alphonsus Liguori.
Oh my gosh, are my boys in here? Because they would just go wild with what you just said. I mean, this is like, oh man. Is Michael Corleone in here? Or Eusebius or Scholasticus or any of those guys? Oh gosh. Sorry. Well, you're on the Discord. Like they're going over all these moral dilemmas and ethical nuances, man, when it comes to sexuality, theology of the body and stuff like that. And oh dude, it's divisive, man. It's dividing people. So
Scholastic answers moment.
Yeah. Oh, do you visit him? His
I
stream?
do. Christopher West is sending people to hell, I believe, was a very fascinating video. Which I mean, I can't say I'm a fan of his work, but I think what it points out is however we want to phrase change without having to admit that the term we're using is change of how the Catholic Church understands sexuality.
Well, so are you talking about like the strict moralist positions of St. Alphonsus days in contrast with like St. John Paul II's theology of the body? Is that what you're kind of?
Yeah, I mean, you go from St. Paul talking about like, well, gosh, like if you got to get married because you're weak, like it's better to do that. And then, and this is all shout out Kevin's video on it. What's the title of Kevin's video? It has Augustine in a quote as the thumbnail, which is a great way to. And he has quotes then from Augustine, which is like, sex isn't really a good thing. We see in the early church that it's kind of like once you get past your early childbearing years, it's like probably celibacy. And then through Alphonsus Liguori talking about what married couples can and can't do. I don't want to get demonetized on the stream already on top of a Jubilee episode.
Might as well.
YouTube.
Why break the precedent?
That's true. And then to kind of have this JP2 era, like, oh, it turns out like this whole time we forgot to mention that sex is actually this amazing communion of human persons, and that that our bodies reveal these heavenly mysteries, and that sex is this incredible thing. We just want to use it in these proper ways. Seems to not jive. I was thinking like if you brought a handful of Catholics from every century in the church, would they get along? And I think the answer is no. Can you harmonize all of the documents if you first presuppose that the church can only develop doctrine and can't change? Like I see how you can draw that line, but I think the plain text interpretation of documents and what would happen in person with a time machine would be a very different story.
Yeah. So I know this sounds like a cop out to you, but I mean, I love St. Alphonsus de Liguori. I I subscribe to his teachings and everything. But and he is a doctor of the church.
Mm-hmm.
And there is some sort of sense of ordinary universal magisterial authority there. There really is. But at the same time, it's not the end all be all, universal magisterium or
Ordinary.
extraordinary magisterium. So
And Jimmy Akin has a book on how the magisterium teaches, which is like a very fascinating way to watch Akin kind of dissect the levels of authority within the church. I find it, I mean, I see how he makes the arguments, but I think that if I were God and establishing a church, I would have more people than just Jimmy Akin understand the levels of authority and how to make things jive. Whereas, but that's like a whole other rabbit hole. Like we're now from Peterson into
I know.
What's
no
the name of
one's
Akin's book?
sending me questions, man. I just want to touch on that for just a second
Mhm.
because it's a good point, because there are a lot of non-Catholics out there right now. I mean, atheists, Protestants, whatever. And when it comes to the magisterium, ecclesiology, there's just so much confusion and lack of clarity. And a couple things. First of all, it's not really incumbent upon the laity to have this explicit faith and assent to what are the gradations of magisterial dogmatic authority. You know what I mean? Yes, it's good to know, it's edifying. If you're a theologian, apologist, yes. But, my 13-year-old niece, I don't expect her or even demand her, or the church for that matter, to explain to me the different levels of magisterial authority. You know what I'm saying? So implicit faith suffices. It really does. It really absolutely does. And I think people overanalyze or hyper focus on all these technicalities and nuances to the point where it's like, well, I don't know this guy says this guy says that person, and it's just a whole mess. And it's like, well, why couldn't God set up a church or a structure to prevent these kinds of things? And I think, I don't know, I rest peacefully at night without having to know as much on ecclesiology as maybe Elijah Yossi. He's one of our boys or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't matter to me.
The upside to not going down the traditional Catholic YouTube rabbit hole is that you sleep peacefully at night. Once you start getting deep into like Tradistan, as they call it, of like internet amateur theologians dredging up these obscure documents from a bygone era, becomes significantly more complicated. And I have a discussion with Cameron Riker on pretty much this exact issue. I had him on the channel. We talked for an hour about what I see many people that go down the traditional Catholic rabbit hole. It's like they start in a room of like things that they can and can't do in life. And then they start getting on the internet and they hear a myriad of voices about what you can and can't do. And they start painting themselves further and further into a corner where you might hear one priest that says, well, dancing might actually be sinful. And then you hear 10 priests that are like, no, it's fine. But because our brains are wired to avert losses at all costs, and we weigh loss significantly more heavy than we see a reward, that it takes one priest to go like, well, can't do yard work on a Sunday. And then it's like, well, can't go shopping on Sunday. Then it's like, well, dancing in general is sinful. And then it's like, wait, dancing is always sinful. And then it's like associating with, and people start painting themselves into this corner by hearing these more and more dissident voices saying that very, very particular things are sinful, to the point where they're unable to live a life that is free from scrupulosity or overzealous prosecution of various sin manuals from the 14th century.
Yeah. So what I would say is having a formed conscience is everything. So people that are attached to deliberate venial sin, and again, I'm not getting judgmental on anyone here, I'm just saying for the sake of argument, they're going to darken their intellect. They're going to sully their conscience. And so scrupulosity comes from things like that. Scrupulosity is just a bad effect from deliberate venial sin. And the problem is they're looking for validation outside of their own conscience. So they'll go to this priest or these 10 priests. And then what you're going to get is you're going to get conflicting, contradictory statements from them, because Dude, you don't have to tell me I'm a Catholic. You got an Orthodox priest here, and this priest that probably should have never became a priest. But no, seriously. And then, so like for me personally, again, I'm not saying I'm like a saint or anything, but like I take that very seriously. Like I want to make my conscience formed and my intellect not darkened. So I, without, having to filled with anxiety, have to depend and rely on this priest or that priest or this spiritual director. You know what I mean? And yeah, it's just scrupulosity. It kills people's peace. You know what I mean? So form the conscience, try to stay away from deliberate sinning. Again, I'm not telling you that. I'm just saying like out loud, but yeah, I mean,
Sinning is no bueno. We got to put that on a bumper sticker.
I said your friend could come up here, by the way.
Let's do it. I'll send him the link.
I private chatted you the link. Oh, you probably still have the link from earlier, but Luke Robinson sounds like a superhero or a baseball player, MLB player or something.
Luke does often says that he looks like Clark Kent or Superman, depending on what he's wearing for the day.
Yeah, it's funny. I never got into the comics or the DC Marvel stuff, but if I had to choose, it would be DC. If I had to. So Superman, yep, come on up. Let's spit some game, talk some smack.
Just texted him.
Did anyone have any questions? Like, what is going on here? Like,
there's some questions mixed in all sorts of commentary. Somebody asked me if I was still Cade, if you are a Catholic, when was your last confession? It would have been the tail end of 2020, 2023. The last time I went to mass was on January 1st of 2023, or was it 2024? I can't remember my years anymore. Why can't I remember what feast day is on January 1st? It's one of the Marian feast days as a holy day of obligation.
Mary, Mother of God, the divine maternity. Yeah, dude,
Indeed.
It's like, the recovering alcoholic phrase or whatever, but it's like the last time recovering alcoholic, the last time you had your the time you had your last drink or whatever.
Yeah, they go to ex-Catholic support group where it's like, hi Cade, I'm a recovering Catholic.
Gosh, everyone, it's funny, everyone's on Christian Wagner. Christian Wagner's still live. Can he literally just got done. Because people are like, oh, they're all on Christian Wagner stream. Oh, guys, everyone flood in here. And yeah, dude, Ignatius, tell me you literally just left Christian's live stream. Ignatius.
Somebody left a comment of what would it take for me to come back to the faith.
Oh yeah.
I mean, there's like the theological answer, and then there's like I like to join groups and live my life in a way that builds virtue and makes me happy and is something that I feel like is impacting the world. Like we all join groups based off of that, and you see that in people's testimonies. So in a certain sense, it would just be make Catholicism fun again. The more technical sense would be an epistemology that can sufficiently ground dogmatic theology and philosophy would be like the technical answer to that.
Mm-hmm. Luke's here. Richard Nixon had that to say. I think he might know of you. Richard Nixon's here.
You could listen to my podcast called Intrinsically Ordered. Is almost where that comes from. What is that? Paragraph 22 something. My ability to quote specific paragraphs of the Catechism are going down.
Yeah. Welcome, Luke.
We got Mr. International Traveler on the stream.
Oh, where are you at right now? Africa?
Oh, I'm can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, yeah, I'm back in the States now, but I was just doing mission work with a nonprofit over in Liberia, just doing some videography for them. So Catholic videography.
Oh.
Producing marketing materials and stuff for them.
Are you like freelance or do you work for someone?
Freelance.
Wow.
Yeah. So
good for you.
It was very hot, sweaty, and buggy. I probably have like 40 mosquito bites and got like attacked by fire ants on 3 separate occasions. And stuff.
Dude, you might have RFK brainworms.
Yeah, you might have West Nile. You get that checked out.
Yeah, I'm banking on that doxycycline I'm taking right now. I'm just like 1 in 60 carry malaria or mosquitoes, and I'm like, it's up there.
So, Luke, you're still a practicing Catholic, correct?
Yes, absolutely.
Very
Okay,
much
and-
so.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you are. I'm not trying to dox you, but you're in the United States,
Yeah.
Western
Yeah, yeah.
Hemisphere. Okay.
East Coast.
Okay. Cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
We got some. All right. Yeah. Thanks for coming up.
Yeah. But yeah, Cade and I go back a few years for sure, and both of us have actually been on Jubilee, ironically enough.
Which one were you on?
I was on the teens pro-verse anti-abortion, but none of us were
Middle
teens
ground.
except Jubilee middle ground, and only one of us was a teen at the time of filming that. They were like, whatever you guys do, don't mention your ages. We all thought they would just change the title of the video because they easily could have, but they didn't change it from teens. But,
Okay, so what am I missing here? How y'all getting on Jubilee? Like, what is this? Do you know something we don't?
It was Cade. He was on their mailing list, and I wasn't sure if I wanted to like keep doing videography. I was like, oh, I don't know, because I was kind of lazy. I wasn't as disciplined as I should have been doing it. So I was kind of like considering doing some other things, but I was dabbling in like the pro-life apologetics a little bit, and Cade knew I was doing that, so he was on their mailing list and he saw this thing, and then he sent it to me. It was like, hey, I know you've been kind of wanting to do this. Here's an opportunity. You should try and apply for it. And some life stuff was going on at the time, so I wasn't sure if I was still going to do it, but I was like, you know what? Only reason I'm not going to do it is if I'm a coward. So I'm just going to do it. But I wasn't as well studied as I wish I would have been for this episode. But I guess how I got on it was a bit different because I know they're more left leaning, more progressive, and the application's different now. But back then they had just like some demographic stuff. Then they had like one open-ended prompt, and they were like, "Why do you think you'd be a good fit for this episode?" And I played the liberal card. I just went as a straight.
You're a
white
disabled
Christian
black
male,
woman.
I often feel that our group is left out of this discussion, and I feel like I could represent this group very, very well. And so I basically handed them the white Christian male stereotype on a silver platter for them to try to villainize, and then they wanted me for that. So
Man, they just took that like,
Yeah.
like they ate that up, man. Good for you.
Yeah.
That's
like they changed the title and thumbnail around a little bit, but the title now is "Should Men Have a Say?" And that question wasn't even like in the video, so they used my face and then my man status to get clicks.
there you go.
Even though they couldn't get
Bro's
it
a
in the video.
DEI hire.
Nice. Someone had a question. What does Cade think about the Saints? If I missed anything,
It depends on the saint. For the saints that did exist, which is to say that like a lot of the saints and the legends surrounding them seem historically unreliable. Also, shout out Kevin's channel again that Juan Diego may not have existed and seems likely to have not existed. But of the saints that do exist, some of them have heroic virtue. Some of them also seem to be seriously struggling with mental health concerns, and that I think in many ways the propagation of some of these saints' holiness seems to just be condoning and making some people's mental health outcomes much worse. You see it in some of the Carmelite saints when it comes to fasting and anorexia and OCD, that some of these people's holiness seems to be much more in line with mental health challenges than a loving relationship with the deity.
I don't really understand what he's trying to ask here. So, Cade, if you want to try to decode that, or at least
Why is teleology the basis for Catholic morality around sex? I mean, the answer would be that if God designed us and God created us, then to look to the design of which we were created would make sense. If one has a Catholic understanding about the world, why is it wrong to find other uses for things? I mean, that's what people who are not a fan of natural law level the criticism of use other than or contrary to seems like a meaningless distinction that you can only arrive at if you first know what a conservative Catholic has to uphold. So I think that's a valid criticism. And is MacGyver the villain? Talking about like MacGyvering teleological design, or maybe that's a philosopher that I'm not aware of.
Oh no, MacGyver. He had that show. Dude, Way back in the day. I only know that because I'm old as dirt. It's a show. It's a television show, or it was a television show rather.
Well,
Where
Luke's
he
the
was
expert
like,
at MacGyvering film stuff. There's so many things with lighting and in the film industry that you just like put together tape balls to stop reflections and random backgrounds. Luke is the MacGyvering expert on that matter.
yeah.
I was Cade's goober for all things lighting.
Yes, I started my career just before Luke, and then Luke and I send nerdy YouTube videos around lighting and cinematography to each other. Yeah, so that's
Yeah. Guys, what's with all these free questions? Luke has a condition, okay? He's needs help. No, I don't know. But
I
like
could have
Luke has-
malaria coursing through my veins right now.
yeah, he might have East
Yeah.
Nile or West Nile, perhaps even North Nile. We gotta GoFundMe for this man.
I was thinking South Central in the Hood Nile.
Or in denial is the other disease that many people have.
Oh, just oh man,
But
this is too much. This is too much. But yeah, guys, if you have questions for Luke and or Cade and or myself, please send them our way. This is the time to do it. So
Luke is here to expose me.
Yeah.
He's the live fact check.
hey,
All right, first fact check.
Fact check.
Did you were you enrolled to study film or theology at JP Catholic?
Double major, double minor.
Okay. It's just
I have back in my high school's old like what college are people going to? It's like college and then major, and then mine takes like a wall of text doing a double major, double minor. It's like, but nothing will beat logic classes with the one and only unnamed professor. Man is built different, as I think Luke can attest to.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty simple. I mean, God is truth. God created us. He is our last end. We're made for him, not for ourselves. He is our happiness. He is our beatitude. So I don't know why you would pursue anything other than God, at least primarily for that end.
Precisely do you mean by God?
Well,
Yeah.
what do you mean by God? What do you mean by believe?
So Kermit, you think Jordan Peterson sounds like Kermit or what?
I
Oh,
no, I guess my impression is an impression of Seamus from like the cartoon animator.
Freedom
So mine's like an
Tunes.
impression of an impression, I guess.
That works. That was pretty good though, man. That was
Yeah.
top notch. Oh, it's about time. Like Cade, I don't know what when I have live streams, dude, they flood me with super chats until tonight.
Well, now it's formal cooperation with evil.
Yeah, approximate. There, Cade, this is for you, my friend.
What is my view on the existence of demons? Would you participate in some of the blood rituals as an empirical test? Don't recommend it, but asking if you would test it. No, I don't think I'd participate in blood rituals. That sounds disease laden, even from a purely atheistic, materialistic worldview. Blood is a no bueno thing, generally speaking. But the existence of demons, I have a podcast on my channel, one of the first ones on spiritual warfare. Demons are a very this is like such a broad question that I'm like, what is the question that's being asked here? Do I think demons exist? No. Do I think that people reasonably believe that they've seen demons interact with the world? Yes. Do I think that people's conceptions of demons seem to very closely align to regional and cultural conceptions of unknown phenomenon? Also, yes. Do I think that taking spiritual warfare seriously is a very it's taking spiritual warfare seriously often ends in some very bad places for people's mental health. But do I think a Jordan Peterson style interpretation of hell and demons as just like a self-implosion or a hell of your own making that can be a helpful literary device? So it's like 4 answers to 4 different assumed questions there. And yeah, don't listen to Father Ripperger. That's my hot take. Luke, you still listening to Father Ripperger these days?
I don't think I never really like regularly listened to Father Ripperger. No.
Thank heavens.
He had
Lishma.
the Salve on his channel, but that was like the one thing I watched on his channel. The Salve recording.
That is the best thing Father Ripperger has put out. He, I don't know. I talk with a lot of Catholics, and they're not happy with Father Ripperger. And there's rumors of him potentially being sanctioned for saying some wildly off-base things. And he has a book called, it's like a manual of spiritual warfare or something. And he seems to have just entirely cooked up concepts that have never been referenced in church history, and that many of his binding prayers and these prayers for the laity, he seems to have made himself, and they don't seem entirely orthodox or in line with church teaching. So that's my hot take on Father Ripperger.
Yeah, I've seen a little bit of his stuff. I mean, there are good elements of truth. He knows a lot about St. Thomas Aquinas in his writings, but I get a weird vibe, too much, a little too much traditionalism for my taste, among other things. But I mean, yeah, just get what you can out of him and then discard what you know.
Now we got to send the question to Luke for his views on demons.
I would.
And would you do blood rituals?
No, that's
would
another
I do blood? Would I do a blood ritual?
That'd be another
No.
$10. But no, go ahead.
Yeah. No, I would not do a blood ritual.
Yeah, I don't understand with the blood ritual. What's going on there? I don't even. Why would you get one?
The question might be asking if I don't believe in demons, why not invite them in to like see their existence, or if I'm not afraid of them, like prove that I'm not afraid of them, might be what the question's being asked here. I'm not a big fan of the atheist crowd like doing fake Satanism for the sake of triggering the cons. Seems very unhelpful for having productive dialogues and is just disrespectful to people. And so getting into the Satanism thing and doing the rituals, A, doesn't sound fun, and B, I think is disrespectful and counterproductive to interesting and informative discussions.
Yeah, okay. So Jordan Peterson's great at giving individuals advice on how to better themselves. To an extent, I'm not going to push back too hard on that, okay? You can take some elements. I mean, some people have taken his advice and have flourished, okay? So, hey, but like you said, but his philosophy on life makes it very hard for him to accept the view of God who would take the burden for him out of love. You know, I want to know what his relationship is like with his wife, because his wife converted Catholicism, and obviously, as one of the Jubilee guys, atheist dudes, pointed out, like, oh, you've been flirting with it, or at least been going to mass. And what do you know about the Immaculate Conception? What do you know about it? You've been going to mass. Talk to me. Tell me what you know about the Immaculate Conception.
Luke, what did you think of that particular atheist? He's Danny, runs a philosophy channel, but was using the Catholics worship Mary line of questioning as a pro-atheism argument and not a pro-Protestantism argument. What did you make of all that?
I don't remember I think I like kind of glanced through some of that, but that was one section I did watch a little bit longer in depth. My impression from that discussion was I think the atheist had good points to make, but he was too much of a jerk in doing it. It just rubbed Jordan the wrong way, because he had a good point. It's just like, he's like, are you a Christian or are you not? It's like Jordan should be able to answer that question. It's like, it's not a bad faith question, and it gets to the meme. It's like, do you believe in God? Like, do you believe Christ is the Logos incarnate? It's like, you should be able to just answer that. So do you, like, yes or no, do you accept the Catholic belief of God and of Christ? Like, God is like the maximally conceivable being or something like that. And Jordan's just like, well, I don't have to tell you. And then it gets into the whole, it's like, well, you're really quite something or you're really quite nothing. And it just devolves. But I think, I don't know, Jordan got cooked.
You've read most of Peterson's books, right?
No, I've not.
Oh.
I haven't. I've listened to a lot of his content, but I haven't read through.
So you don't know what metaphorical substrate is?
No, I don't.
Dude, when you said that to him, I'm just like, I love it. Just throwing his vocab back at him.
The one thing that got cut from my Michael Knowles discussion was talking about which catechism is his favorite. And I was like, Catechism of the Council of Trent, Baltimore Catechism, or Green Catechism. And he said an early edition of the Baltimore Catechism was Michael Knowles' favorite catechism. And for some reason, our super technical discussion on transubstantiation and transgenderism got cut from the final episode. I don't know why. Like, maybe it went over people's heads, but Michael Knowles was like, oh, this guy knows his stuff. I did confirm between takes on that episode that Michael Knowles does sometimes pray the luminous mysteries, and he did have his rosary on him.
Whoa.
So I
The
don't know.
luminous?
The luminous? Uh-oh.
Dude. Michael Knowles. I'm gonna make a video about that.
The rad trads would say he's not trad anymore. He lost his trad card.
He did.
I would say it doesn't count towards the daily rosary. You'd have to say another one of the original 3.
Of course.
Alistair Rebello comes again with. Was that not the same question? I don't know.
So I think what he's getting at is the is like if I think demons aren't real, I shouldn't be scared of the dark type of argument, I think is what he's going for, and feel free to clarify, Alistair.
I think he might, or Alistair might be trying to say is like, oh, why not try some demonic way of like, oh, summoning demons just to see like, does it actually summon a demon or not, and just like have a little notebook to take your empirical observations.
Like those cringy ghost catching shows where they're like talking into a room with an echo. I mean, I would love for a demon to show up in an empirical test. Like there's so many things that would be incredill to see in a scientific setting where you have all of these crazy claims from exorcists on people floating, and as Joe talks about in the stream, people walking up walls backwards at the psychologist's office, and like all of these preternatural ideas. Father Ripper is big on the distinction between supernatural and preternatural. With all of these preternatural realities, would be great if they did happen, right? Like if you could show somebody floating up there, would be incredible, and all of science would bow down if Father Ripper finally got somebody to levitate. Which is that Father Ripper had that the demons were given power to make somebody levitate. Yeah.
Oh, Luke,
Am I a left Catholic or just a normal guy? Neither. I am what people would classify as a glad trad.
Yeah, that's a false dichotomy, by the way.
Yeah.
So let's just get that out of the way.
Luke and I did a number of trips down to the fraternity parish. It was a sort of like cram more people in a car than may have technically been legal, so that as many students as possible can attend the Latin Mass down in San Diego. Yeah, so a number of Latin Mass trips. I think. How many Latin Masses have we been to, Luke? At least 2, I would think. Perhaps more like a few dozen.
And in multiple states.
That is true.
And we've done pilgrimage as well together. We hiked like that 30-something miles or whatever.
All right. What are your thoughts on Traditionis Custodes and the Latin Mass restrictions in Charlotte that just got rescinded, I believe?
I haven't read all of the documents in depth. I saw Michael Lofton's reaction to the Charlotte stuff, and then I saw
Lofton-splaining?
Some other people's reaction. Lofton explains some things like he's like, oh, like the bishop like really doesn't want to do this, but he's doing it following Traditionis Custodes. Like he instituted an extension, but the purpose of the extension is just to sort some things out, not to just keep doing it perpetually. But then other people started talking about these different things where he seems to be really going after like Latin and these other things that go beyond the Latin Mass. So I don't have firm opinions on it because I haven't like read everything firsthand. But I think in the Latin Mass discussion, I think there is something to be said. I think like the people of the Vatican, like they have their eyes, even though they're a bunch of old people, like and the bishops, like they have their eye on social media land, and they're watching what people are saying. And I think there's something true to be said about the Latin Mass being a weapon against the magisterium, where they'll use it to like dissent against their local bishop. Like they're just like, no, I don't have to listen to what the bishop says. I'll just do my own thing. Because it's something I'll ask people whether or not they're true trads is, do they actually follow the virtue of obedience? I say, if the Latin Mass was completely shut down, would you operate like an underground Latin Mass community church or whatever, or would you attend the Novus Ordo? And a lot of people are like, well, I do the underground Latin Mass, or they revert to like, well, they actually don't have the authority to restrict Latin Mass or this or that. Which those are separate discussions, but I've met a lot of, on the other hand, like, I go to the Latin Mass occasionally. I've been to the seminary in Florence for the FSSP. I've been to all the pre-55. I go to a lot of that. I have the Father Sans Missal. Like I go to Latin Mass. And I really enjoy it. And I've met a lot of people in these communities who are faithful Catholics who follow the bishop, have the virtue of obedience. But there are a lot out there, and they tend to be the more vocal ones who are, I guess, I won't use the D word, but they're the dissenters, I would say.
Yeah.
But I think if people just clean up their act, one of the online traditionalist online Catholics clean up their act, I think there is a good chance that traditionalist custodes could be reversed in a number of ways under Pope Leo, because there have been rumors that he's celebrated the Latin Mass before and this or that he seems to just be a more fan of tradition. He wore the traditional papal garments. He said a lot of like the opening prayers, like the prayers during the Mass in Latin. I think on the Vatican website or somewhere they sent out, how to pray with the Pope in Latin. Like they sent out these different things. So he's a fan of tradition. And like, I remember looking at, I popped back onto Dr. Taylor Marshall's channel. I just was like, I wonder his thoughts are on Pope Leo.
Throwback.
He seems to be a big fan of Pope Leo. He seems pretty hopeful.
Yeah, I was just gonna say you can't say that name on a live stream here.
You say it 3 times and then they descend from the corners of the internet.
Yeah, no, I thought that was a very well thought out and fair balance.
Because we mentioned the SSPX earlier in the stream, and I haven't been to like a chapel, but it's interesting when like if you try, it's very hard to like pin down specifically what the actual belief is, because I've gotten that like on their YouTube channel, they will say the Novus Ordo is invalid. But then when I bring those people, like, no, that's not the actual society position. Like that YouTube channel is not actually a reflection. You actually have to go to this other like site or whatever, listen to this specific figure. But then when I actually talk to people like on the ground, like whenever I meet someone at SSPX, like ask them, it's like, is the Novus Ordo invalid? Like, am I actually attending a valid Mass? Am I receiving valid sacraments? Am I actually receiving a valid Eucharist? And then they're like, they'll say no, or they're like, well, it's doubtful that you're actually receiving the Eucharist.
It's like the merry-go-round of beliefs, because there always depends on who you talk to.
Yeah, and it's like when I ask them, it's like they'll go so far as to essentially like be Protestant in a certain way, where if there isn't a chapel, like a society chapel around, they won't attend a Novus Ordo, or if you can even drag them there, they won't participate in any way. They won't be like focused on like the liturgy in any way. They'll just be sitting there reading their missal. And that's just what Protestants do. They're like, I can't really go to a church with my pastor, so I'll just read my Bible on Sunday.
Right.
And it's like, come on, guys.
Cade, you have a question here.
Mm-hmm. Do I believe that current Catholic exorcists are lying about their experiences? Father Lampert. There's a podcast that Father Lampert is on. I forget which episode of Pints with Aquinas he's talking about, but he talks about a specific memory of somebody levitating. And in that episode, he admits that somebody else who was in the room did not see the same things of somebody levitating, which if you did that in a courtroom, your entire side would implode. Right? If you have you and your buddies doing a claim of self-defense, and then your other buddy who is on your side says, actually, this was entirely unprovoked and not proportional, the whole jury would go, this seems doubtful. So do I think, I'd put it 2 ways. The tales that Catholics tell about exorcisms often are not what the original documents say. There's talks of the random family in the Midwest where the daughter was possessed and she went to the psychologist. In the psychologist's office, she was walking up the walls backwards and nobody knew what to make of the situation. If you read the documents, nothing like that was claimed. So most of these stories tend to be like these wives' tales that are rapidly expanding. As to what actual exorcists are reporting, I have no clue. Are they reasonably mistaken? Are they squinting and primed to believe in particular phenomena that are happening? Specifically narratives around superhuman strength, where they'll be like, some tiny woman in the middle of an exorcism threw 2 large men, which shouldn't be possible. But we know that people do crazy things not under the influence of demons like that. And then if you've ever seen cops try to arrest somebody, like it's a very difficult thing when people are putting up a fight. So they seem to be exaggerated. As to specific claims, I have no clue what these people actually think. I don't think that they're going on some amazing tour over time, but it seems like the stories tend to grow and grow and grow significantly out of proportion. All to say, I don't know.
All right, there's another chat here. So, Daniel, I don't know what your intention is with this question. I will just say that, and I'm not just trying to be partial to Cade here, but it's obviously not a mental illness. I have mental illness, and I'm a Catholic. You know, that has to do with genetics, biology, neurology, all this other stuff. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah. But go ahead, Cade. I didn't mean
Yeah.
to speak for you.
No, you're good. So what do you think about the idea of atheism is a mental illness? There seems to be a correlation or causation with fabulousness and atheism. How do I parse that question? There are atheists and there are Christians where their beliefs can often correspond with underlying mental health concerns. Or if you're talking to an atheist who is thoroughly unable to engage in thought, and they see the world in entirely black and white terms, or they lash out at people, like sometimes atheism certainly can be a sign of mental illness in the same way that many radical traditional Catholics also have a higher rate of mental illness. Where I think that oftentimes that extreme beliefs of any shade can often be signs of underlying mental health concerns, but them in of themselves are not diagnoses because they're not. I mean, psychology is an interesting field when you talk about like the epistemology and the philosophy of mental illness. Um, and when you talk about etiology, like there's all these things in the field of psychology, but psychology tends to tie back to either physical things within the brain or cognitive patterns that seem to be reliably understood and evaluated. So I don't think atheism itself could ever become a mental illness. And then it could be a sign of, but I don't think it is in principle even capable of being a diagnosis in the DSM. Now, maybe you get enough protesters and you can get into the DSM. Seems to be a way about doing things in the field of psychology. But yeah, I think that answers the brunt of the question.
Yeah, that suffices, my friend.
I want to address a comment here. Am I a Lofton fan? I watch a number of different people with different views. So I
No
watch
Loftonism?
a little bit more of Wagner.
Oh,
I've watched a little bit of Wagner. I have friends who are like diehard Wagner fans.
yeah.
So they're the ones who like mentioned it. They're like, "Have you heard of this guy?" I'm like, "No, I've never heard of this guy in my life." And then I watched a little bit of him.
Yeah, you got a few Wagnerites in here. Well, you know, they're always on my live streams, but they're not tonight. I don't know what's going on here, but whatever.
They're at the convention.
What convention?
Their secret meeting. Everybody that
yeah.
follows him, they have their secret meeting.
They're the Freemason meeting.
Favorite food, mac and cheese. Next question, Luke.
I think chicken parmesan.
Dude,
I made that.
Luke makes incredible chicken parmesan, for the record. Sometimes it takes hours, and one eats them very late, but it is very good.
I am not fast with breading chicken.
Okay,
but make a mess. I still have flour from that in my computer speaker.
Flour or cocaine? Cade, you got to tell us more. Like, what do you mean mac and cheese? Like box mac and cheese, gourmet breadcrumbs? What are we talking here? What kind of?
Out of the supermarket ones, the only correct answer is Annie's white cheddar. It's above all other boxed mac and cheese. And ideally, if you're at a restaurant, it's got to be mac and cheese with some bacon on it. None of that green like garnish on top. We just need noodles, a lot of cheese, and ideally bacon. And it doesn't have to be more complicated than that.
Have you ever? Because I make a pretty mean box mac and cheese, man. Have you ever put? Okay, it can't be flavored, so non-flavored Greek yogurt instead of butter.
I have not.
No.
That sounds good.
Try it.
Oh, and adding breadcrumbs. See, breadcrumbs, I don't know if I'm a fan of breadcrumbs and mac and cheese. They certainly don't make it worse when it's like a little bit of breadcrumbs, but I've never had a really good bowl of mac and cheese and been like, I need some crunch to this. Like, I need what feels like sand in my mac and cheese. That's my hot take. Crucify.
Dude, I hear you. It depends on the breadcrumbs, but I totally get it. Sometimes it's like gravel. It's like, no, the texture does not jibe with the elbow macaroni or whatever.
And sometimes people bake it and there's a very crunchy layer on top, and you're like, no. We don't need a crunchy layer on top. We don't need crunch in the mac and cheese. Oh my goodness, which cat is that, Luke?
That's good. I'm a very good
Yes.
Catholic. I have cats, so it's in the name.
Man, we should get our own little screen for the cat.
I think so. Oh, and somebody's doing the 30-day cloak of novena to Saint Joseph.
Yes, where do you see
Everybody's got to
that?
do consecration to Saint Joseph.
Where do you see this?
That is right below favorite food by 2 chats by some person. Quite literally, some person left that chat.
Wait, what? Oh, yeah. Ordinarily, it's for April, so it culminates on May 1st. That's the Feast of St. Joseph the Worker, but you can do it anytime you want, son. Get real. Do it. Oh, we got some people coming out of the woodwork here. Hold on just a second.
Luke is increasing viewership through the roof.
Yes, thank you, Luke.
Just the Wagner mention.
The royalties are in the mail.
I summon them.
Barbecue sauce with mac and cheese. Okay, I mean,
No.
I've
No.
never tried it. I'm not gonna knock something I haven't tried.
We're hearing all of the different combinations of mac and cheese. First with Greek yogurt, now with barbecue sauce.
Not barbecue sauce. It ruins it. Oh, Eric says, what is the bacon for that in reference to the crunchiness of breadcrumbs? Bacon is salty goodness, and breadcrumbs are like you swept your floor and then just put the dustpan on top of your mac and cheese.
Literally, scraps from the table, man, or crumbs from the table.
Somebody's talking about Calloway's book on Saint Joseph. My hot take is that is a very, very bad book. And even as a Catholic, I was like, what is this? Because to put it lightly, Calloway is just making stuff up for most of the book on what Saint Joseph did and didn't do and what he would and wouldn't want and so much about him. He has a few saint quotes, and the rest of the book seems to be wild speculation and invention around Saint Joseph. That's my hot take. That's my hot take.
Boy, I don't know what this is, but diced garlic, Fruit Loops, apple salad, and fried chicken soup. How many THC gummies have you had?
Bro has the munchies.
Like,
do you guys know what Snickers salad is?
Yeah, dude, that's probably a Minnesota thing. I know exactly what
Luke?
you're talking about.
Snickers salad?
I've never heard of it.
Eric, do you want to explain what Snickers salad is and why it probably doesn't count as salad?
The name just kind of says it, right?
It's Snickers and a lot of heavy whipping cream and some apples, and depending on how you make it. So it's essentially just whipped cream covered Snickers bars in a very large bowl. So salad is a bit of a stretch.
I was asking based on a Catholic culture article called Faith of Fatherlessness, the Psychology of Atheism from April 24th, 2014. Who wrote this article? Where'd you find it? Oh, Catholic Culture. I'm sorry.
It's available on Amazon you can buy it paperback, $19.95. Or a hardcover is cheaper than paperback.
Anybody have $19.95 they can lend us?
Yes. Somebody put that in the super chat, and Eric will buy a copy.
I'll buy you this book article.
Oh, Ignatius Press also has it, also for $19.95. I'm just reading through this summary of it. Oh, we're talking about Freud, so that's always a great start to a book.
Freud. He was quite the animal. Any other questions, guys? We don't want to take up all of Cade and Luke's night here. Questions, comments, concerns, guys?
So this book,
to hear more about Cade's kind of journey of leaving Catholicism, because he did a lot of Jubilee commentary, but people kind of want to know more about Cade leaving, I guess, the faith and how that happened.
I also have a podcast titled How to Leave Catholicism, which is like the step-by-step guide of like how to leave religion. Because leaving religion when you're ensconced in it, when it comes to your life, your well-being, how you see the world, the axioms, your philosophy, your moral system, that when you're entrenched in it, leaving it is certainly a Pick and choose. Sorry, I'm slightly distracted here. That's plus 10 aura. It's a very good comment.
The
Common
sped teacher
Boomer
is what
L.
it's like. So Pickin, I don't know your name, but I'm gonna call you Pick and Choose. You were in sped, obviously. I don't know. I don't know if I've ever found, or I shouldn't be saying this. I have a wife.
Yeah,
But,
I feel like you're gonna regret saying anything about this comment on a live stream, Eric. I'm gonna
Well-
save you from somebody clip farming.
usually educators in the special ed field aren't the most. Yeah, I'll just leave it at that. But I don't know. I don't.
Hot takes. Eric says that Snicker salad explains the obesity epidemic. It certainly does. Especially at Thanksgiving when you already have a full meal, and then it's like Snickers bars at 8 billion calories per square inch. Not the anti-Semitic Jubilee comments. That's a new one. One time somebody asked me in the comment section how much Israel pays me to make content, and I was like, Israel's no stranger to pumping money into content, but it's certainly not certainly not my channel. That was a like 4D chess anti-Semitic comment that I got at some point. Eric can't comment on things publicly, I guess.
I've gotten into a little bit of trouble, I'm not gonna lie, on these streams. Whoopsies.
Somebody's username is just Vatican II is based. That is a hot take. That is a hot take. The original question, leaving Catholicism, difficult thing because your life is entrenched in it. And so there's a lot of, and I was working on a script for video. There's a difference between leaving and deconstructing are two separate things. And sometimes they go in one order, sometimes they got to switch. But leaving is just like the physical act of not attending or not pledging allegiance or not saying that you believe supernaturally. Whereas deconstruction is a much longer process of starting to examine what are the beliefs that one held, like to acknowledge them, to discern them, and then to figure out if one wants to keep them inside of their life. And you do see some atheists that leave and then they immediately just like invert their beliefs and they're just as dogmatic, but in like the opposite direction is often the sign of like leaving, but not actually deconstructing. Versus deconstructing necessarily entails agreeing with the church on some points, because it would be literally impossible for the Catholic Church to be wrong about every conceivable thing. So it does a disservice to people to just completely invert and not deconstruct, which is to see the complexity in the world and to pick and choose one's beliefs and not be controlled either in presence or in absence of the church.
Guys, you need to subscribe. No one's subscribing. I think all these people already subscribed, but did he stop playing when he left? Oh, praying. I thought it said playing.
I stopped praying when I left. When I stopped attending a Catholic church, I attended 2 other churches on like 1 or 2 occasions and considered myself a mere Christian for 3 months is how long that phase lasted. After that, there was some sort of prayer. And then within the same year of leaving, I wouldn't say that I pray. I think that running, Luke and I talk a lot about long distance running. Running, I think, can be a form of meditation, can be a form of Father John Brown is in the chat. Oh my goodness, that man is everywhere on the internet. Shout out Father John Brown. Yeah, comments on most things on the Catholic internet. Where was that train of thought? Oh, I'm praying. If I have silent reflection, I don't often find myself directing those internal thoughts at any sort of supernatural intelligence. Father John Brown is on top of the world.
Yes, sir. He always is.
I do remember. I want to keep certain private things private, but I do remember Cade praying with me after I came back. Life stuff was happening, but I remember we went to the Mother Cabrini Shrine. He took me there to help me out, help be a bro. So he took me there, and I remember he prayed with me there.
Dude, wow. St. Francis Xavier Cabrini. Where's that shrine?
Foothills outside of Denver.
Oh, cool. That is awesome.
It's a gorgeous place. And yeah, I don't see prayer as a bad thing. And in fact, I pray with my family when we're blessing meals. Now, they say the prayers are going to do the bless us, O Lord, and these fine gifts which you're about to receive. And I'm like, no, no. In my head, I'm like, even now, I'm like, no, that's not the words. But it still mildly irks me to this day. And I've attended church with friends since then. Like I have no problems and see somebody who takes prayer seriously as an amazing expression of healing, of reflection, and that benefits people's. Oh yeah, Father John Brown has been to the Cabrini Shrine. That's awesome. Um, Cabrini Shrine, I feel like needs a little bit of an update. It still feels stuck in like the 70s and 80s architecture, and they're starting to do that. The new chapel does look significantly better than the old chapel. I was there 2 months ago with a friend. Yeah, they're starting to do some updates to it.
Nice. Tell us about your mom's French toast quickly.
Okay, so French toast, you don't. I'm going to say you don't. French toast is good when you dip the bread into the batter and then you throw it on the griddle. But I think the real way to do a French toast is you put down the layer of butter and sugar and milk first, and then you put the bread in a 9 by 13 pan, and then you put a second layer of whatever the batter is, and then you let it soak overnight, and then you put it in the oven so that it's just crystally brown goodness. Just the bread has been infused with sugar, versus just sometimes French toast, it's like bread in the middle, and then you have the French part on the outside. Um,
French on the outside. Oh, day-old bread. Yeah, day-old bread. Right on.
Coconut oil, I don't know if I can get behind that. That might be a step too far. Luke, have you seen, or did you ever have my mom's French toast when you were in Colorado? Out of the pan.
I don't have a distinct memory if I did.
Well, then
Only
we'll have
reason
to
to come
get it
back.
to you next time.
Yeah.
Precisely. Yeah, I've gained 5 pounds listening to this stream. Yeah, between French toast, mac and cheese, and Snickers salad.
And
Bread pudding,
now bread pudding.
I don't know. Bread pudding, I've tried it a few times. Maybe it's just been bad versions of it. But I'm never exactly hankering for bread pudding.
Yeah. I don't play for
Luke,
that team either.
bread pudding, yay,
No, I
nay.
had it.
Like the tapioca pudding. No, I can't do that either.
Bread pudding, not super great. The great thing on the topic of food at Thanksgiving, the best thing to eat at Thanksgiving is always like sweet potatoes or yams with marshmallows on top. That's the way to go. Like, who needs turkey when you just have marshmallows and sweet potatoes? That's my hot take.
I'm not going to argue there. Guys, I got to go soon. Cade, how long do you have?
As long as we need.
Oh,
Today is just an editing day. And then this weekend I go to the East Coast and then drive back to Denver. And so it'll be like 30 plus hours of driving in the car, which will be fun.
What?
Double thumbs up.
Dude, what? What sped teacher knows French, man? What is going on? What school did you go to? Holy moly.
There's lots of funny memes about sped programs on the internet. Specifically, Instagram Reels always has the best humor.
Eucharist enjoyer, you're a new face. Thanks for coming on. Please subscribe. Okay, don't tell me Pine Sap is in the chat here. Are you just saying in general or what?
He's saying in general. He's someone I also heard of recently.
Yeah.
Came up to me, they're like, "Hey, have you heard of Pine Sap? He did a reaction to your Jubilee video."
Right.
And I had to like go look it up.
Hassan Piker called me an atheist Reddit twink. And I'm not sure if that was a compliment or an insult.
Anytime
Hassan's brain a
Reddit's
little
in there, it's
bit.
probably an insult.
When I sat down, he was like, unstoppable force meets immovable object was his description of me sitting down with Jordan Peterson.
Yeah, I broke Hassan's brain a little bit during the discussion, or my
Oh, he
Jubilee
reacted to
discussion.
yours as well?
He did, and I broke his. A lot of the liberals or leftists, or whatever, like listened to it, did not hear what I actually said, but Destiny actually understood what I said. I had said in the discussion, I said divorce is often worse than death of a parent, and people heard me to say divorce is always worse than death of a parent. And people in the comments were like, oh, like, how could he say this? Like, maybe he should have a parent die, and then he could like really say that, and they didn't know that I have had a parent die. So, but then when Hassan's just like brain exploded, but then Destiny looked at it and he was like, wait, then he like misunderstood it, then he like looked it up, and then he found like it was actually, I understated my claim, it was more than just simple surveys that reported this. There's been some peer-reviewed studies that do show this, because there's like different things that can go, like, yes, death of a parent is hard, but like divorce is often like can be for certain people a very messy situation, like where the children are weaponized, and then they'll try to like convince like the child that the other parent doesn't really love them, that they're using them and stuff like that. So it can be like a very messy situation, worse psychologically for them, but people just completely misunderstood what I said.
So many things are accessible with a simple Google search to fact check.
And
Oh, I love this one.
also misunderstood another point.
I think it's public knowledge, but the director of Jubilee Surrounded series loves this meme that you have on screen.
No, it's a video.
Yeah, it's memes can be videos, Eric.
Wait, what?
Videos can be memes.
I don't understand.
A meme is just something that's highly repeatable.
Evolutionary memetics, as Dawkins talks about.
I thought a meme was just an image.
No, it's just a cultural trope, sort of archetype within the collective consciousness, related in humor in some fashion.
Yeah, I'm a boomer, sorry, but that's what they call me. They make fun of me. There's a question for you, Cade, if you want to.
Yeah, I mean, the comment before that is if Joe Heschmeyer crashed the stream would be amazing.
Yes, it would.
But what's my opinion on the Shroud of Turin? My initial thought is the guy that Michael Knowles had on to talk about the Shroud of Turin was arguably one of the most annoying people I've ever had to listen to. That's my like spicy clickbait, clip farming comment right there. When I think about the Shroud of Turin, I would point people towards Kevin Non-Tradicast's video, who's actually looked into the science of it. I don't find it particularly compelling. I don't find that the Shroud of Turin is this amazing absolute proof in anything. At the best case scenario, the Shroud of Turin is that some dude a long time ago who looked to be vaguely crucified turned into a ball of light. Would be crazy at the best case scenario. At the worst case scenario, it seems likely that it was largely a forgery. But I always like to defer to Kevin's very long discussions, both on that and Eucharistic miracles. I also had Kevin on my show, where Kevin does all of the work, like actually looking at these scientific claims of Eucharistic miracles, and then I just got to like mooch off of his handiwork. And the miracles seem half-baked, to say the least.
You're really giving Kevin some shout-outs tonight.
I do. You see, Kevin makes very thoughtful and in-depth videos, and then I'll randomly at 1 a.m. be like, I have something to yap about, and then stay up all night yapping, and then post it, and then like, interesting. Kevin has like very thoughtful videos, and I also know in every podcast that I do, I somehow work in a shout-out to Kevin, and then he comments with a timestamp. So that's my check to figure out if Kevin's watching something.
That's awesome. Hey, let's watch this. I've never seen it. So this is like ad hoc, first time. I'm going to react to it on the spot. Cool? Let's do this.
Today, I'm surrounded by 20 Kermit the Frogs.
Do you believe you are Jordan Peterson?
What do you mean by believe?
I don't know if you're copying my voice or what.
That's the circular definition.
That's the circular definition.
You stake your life.
You stake your life on it,
and you die.
And you die for it. I feel like I'm talking to myself here.
How much do you know about me?
Hypothetically, if you were born Jordan Peterson, but you talked like Kermit the Frog, that would just make you a human with a frog voice.
You're generating an impossible, restricted, hypothetical with no precursors to back you into.
I can't tell them apart. You like eating red meat, right?
Sure.
And what do Jordan Petersons love eating more than anything else?
Why are you asking me?
Because you are Jordan Peterson.
You say that. I haven't claimed that.
Is this Jordan Peterson versus Kermit the Frogs?
Don't be a smartass.
Either you're Jordan Peterson or you're not. Which is it?
You're really quite something.
That's because you're Jordan Peterson. You're not a frog.
Yeah, I'm done with him.
Yeah, I'm done with him. That's my favorite part. Yeah, I'm done with it.
There's been so many great memes from this format. the guys in the chat really be popping off about Catholic miracles. Just go to Kevin's channel and look at the Shroud of Turin and the Staircase of Loretto and Eucharistic miracles. Also, every time I shout out Kevin, he sends me $5 via carrier pigeon. And one day I can finally buy as cute of a cat as Luke has. Luke has arguably some of the cutest cats I've ever seen.
I've watched, I think, a couple of Kevin's videos, and he gave me a hand grenade for the Trad Olympics. It's on the. I mentioned I'll bring up the brown scapular and be like, it's not actually like a really trad thing. It's like a modern trad thing, and I just like drop it, and they're like, "What?" I'm like, "Yeah, like going like I think he mentioned this video. I think it's like Catholic Encyclopedia. Like they have like I think an article talking about it. How it was like in like I think the early 1900s, like kind of just like came up as like a traditional thing, like within like the Latin Mass communities. Like all of like the Latin Mass communities now will have like we're pretty heavy on the brown scapular, but like if you go back 100 years, it's like it was actually like no, it's like maybe not because it's like historical pedigree doesn't go back to Saint Simon's stock.
And there's the people that got to wear all 7 scapulars because you got the brown scapular, the green scapular, the red scapular, the sort of blue scapular. There's a lot of scapulars, and people wear like all 7 of them, which I was like, that seems like a lot of work. Somebody talking about Staircase of Loretto. Jimmy Aiken has a deep dive into the Staircase of Loretto. I watched way too much.
Mentioned specifically who actually made it. Like he's able to actually show the staircase.
I do want to just touch on this, these private or devotions, these private revelations, private extraordinary graces, Shroud of Turin, scapulars, all this stuff. Guys, because some people in the chat are kind of going a little nutso, but
guys, I do want to mention some stuff on the shroud, but go ahead.
Yeah. Sure. Guys, I have a scapular on right now, but I'm not obsessed about scapulars or private revelation. My children are named after the children of Fatima. I'm not obsessed with those revelations or Our Lady of Fatima. You really have to be careful when it comes to these things and your devotions. Remember, they're ordered towards love of God. They're not ends in of themselves. So don't become obsessed or inordinately excuse me, I can't even talk, infatuated with these things, because it'll become pharisaical, you know what I mean? So yeah, take it easy on those.
Sure. YouTuber Metatron has a really good video on the Shroud of Turin where he looks at a bunch of different things. He's able to actually lay out like a possible path of like handling of the shroud from antiquity, from 1st century, all the way up until who has it now. I think there's like one criticism I have on it, because I think I've listened to some other people. He's in the video, he says there's no evidence of a repair to the shroud, but I think other people have mentioned, no, we have some primary sources on there being repairs to the shroud. And I think there's like a mural or tapestry or something that shows like illustrations like, oh no, like there was some weaving to repair some damage from the fire that the shroud was in. So that's my one criticism I think I have with the video. And then my general opinion on the shroud is the carbon date. They should do new carbon dating, because apparently they deviated from what they should have done. So I think just new carbon tests will kind of put it to rest and make sure it's from a part of the shroud that wasn't repaired. So
do you have a devotion to the shroud?
I wouldn't say a devotion. I'd just say I think it's a very interesting artifact, and if true, I think it's a good sign of the faith for a lot of, I guess, skeptics or so.
Yeah. Elias, I've never seen you on here. Do you guys know this Elias cat?
I don't think so. Somebody had a comment back here. Oh, that somebody's going to sword deal Metatron, which sounds very cool.
What? I have no idea what that is. What is that?
A sword duel?
No, Metatron. What's Metatron?
Oh, he's a YouTube channel. He's into like European history, just history in general, and some like he's like in the sword community, as it were, like and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And there's the super chat. Atheism leads to the false religion of scientism. I think it can. Right. One of Jordan Peterson's claims that I agreed with is that science or meaning and purpose cannot be found inside of science. And I think that's a perfectly based take. Like I don't think that meaning and purpose and virtue and how we live our lives and happiness is an empirical endeavor, and that we don't like pipette our love for people or like do brain imaging scans when we see our first children. And it seems like our experience of the world is not entirely apart, that our experience of the world is not a purely empirical one. So for $2, I will semi agree with the statement.
For $2.
$2 is $2, as they say.
It is. Daniel, thank you for the super chats, man. Appreciate it. Appreciate all you guys who have done that. Very generous. Very grateful for you guys. I'm gonna have to go here in maybe like 5, 6, 7, 8, not more than 10 minutes. Y'all.
Is Cade's view on miracles possible? I mean, yeah, like if you can prove a miracle, like let's go for it. And if you can if you can like seriously mess up what scientists think about the natural world, like they're all ears. If for some reason whoever's talking about empirical tests on demons beforehand, if you can start doing empirical tests on demons, scientists will be lining out the door to get their hands on that. That's my hot take.
Hot take.
Hot take.
Big
Luke,
ol'
what are your
hot
3 hot takes of the day? 1 on Catholicism and 2 on non-Catholic things.
I guess I don't know if it's a hot take, but I know dancing was mentioned earlier in stream.
Ooh.
Priests have never contradicted themselves. I remember a while ago I was looking into the question because I remember I had found like somewhere on the deep interwebs, like I guess the church back in the I think early 1800s banned partner dancing, or it's usually just described as like, oh, the waltz was banned. This is because Regency era and post-Regency era, like you had like country balls, but after like the 1820s, the waltz like started coming about, and like people actually like you had more partner dancing, and you had like masquerade balls with like the mask, and then I guess culturally, like I guess it led to like a lot of debauchery, like scandal and stuff like that. So the church kind of had like a reaction to that. So they had I guess had banned all partner dances, but then this became like I don't know. And then the doctrine's like, well, technically it's still in effect because it's never actually been lifted by the Vatican, even though everyone has completely forgotten about it. Even like Pope Francis has forgotten about it. He's had like hosted, I think, like a tango at like there was like a performance. I think he mentioned that it's an important part of Argentine culture and that he enjoys tango or did enjoy tango. And it's like no one like enforces the ban, and then like if you talk to priests, I remember like even at traditional parishes, like all of parishes will like host dances and stuff. And I know that's another thing that the ban mentions, like churches, like priests are not allowed to attend dances, and that they're not allowed to even like promote them as well, I think, within the church. But then you have a lot of that going on today, but then no one at the Vatican is actually like going after that. So it's kind of just like it's either so not important that they can just ignore it, or that everyone's just forgotten about it. It's okay.
Real quick, sorry, Luke. When praying the cloak of Saint Joseph, when you mentioned the person you're praying for, it can be so. There are 2 spots. I don't know if you have the novena like printed out, because I print it out every year. But there are 2 spots in that prayer. I think one at the kind of the beginning, and then one during the middle. But it doesn't matter. Just say it before, during, after, whenever. You know what I mean? Before you pray it. And then this will keep me streaming. So, as someone who's a recovering addict, a 12-step group related to lust addiction helped me where my faith on its own couldn't. Have you thought of taking a view of lust via the 12 steps, such as through essay? Is this to me? Who is this to? Matt.
I got no clue. I mean, a lot of those 12-step programs people find tremendous help in, and find an amazing, like having a power beyond your understanding for a lot of people can be incredibly helpful. There are criticisms. In the ultra running world, a lot of people are former addicts, and it's interesting hearing various people's opinion on the role of 12-step programs. Some people it's helped them a ton. Some people have really hot takes that like 12-step programs aren't helpful. But I think, yeah, if somebody is seriously dealing with any sort of addiction, whether it's sexual in nature or drugs or whatever it is, 12-step programs do seem to have can help a lot of people, and other people don't like them as much.
Yeah, and it's it's communal, it's structured. I'm pretty sure a Catholic came up with the AA or the AA program. I could be wrong. I don't know, but there's definitely spiritual elements to it. I don't know it in and out thoroughly, but I think there's prayers and giving yourself to God or trusting the serenity prayer, right? Don't they do that in AA? Yeah, the serenity. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I've heard nothing but good things about it. I mean, that's anecdotal, but nonetheless, it's so yeah. When you say SA, do you mean what I think you mean? What you can't say?
Sexaholics Anonymous is what that acronym is. It is an acronym for something that does get demoted on streams.
Yes. Okay.
What he was talking about, a 12-step program. Sexaholics Anonymous is something that people like Matt Fradd have promoted for people with ongoing problems with sexual sins. I think sending somebody to SA for solo activities is a very bad move and psychologically harmful, but for somebody deep in the throes of addiction of a sexual nature, I've heard good things also about SA.
Nice. I lost a bet. I don't know if you guys know, but I'm growing this out, and I'm gonna dye it white to look like James White. So I don't want this here either. Okay.
Wait, it says please shave. So you're gonna like shave the top?
No, she's saying White? This.
Oh, okay.
My chin, this.
Got to go for tonsure.
Oh yeah. I like I got to get a habit and everything. But yeah, this dirt on my chin needs to go. Oh, shave dirt. Oh, we should have a shave stream. Yeah. Okay.
I like the idea of Steven Anderson being on. That would be quite the crossover event.
I would pay money. I would pay him to come on here. I'm not kidding.
The man banned from like 37 countries or something.
Yep. Have you seen his pisseth against the wall video?
I've not, but I've seen him going around with, I believe, a toilet plunger and water and a fake papal hat. His documentaries, when they were still on YouTube, were interesting, and I think even saying the titles the YouTube gods are going to be upset with, but his documentaries, they are something else. They feel like sketch comedy until you realize that it's real. It's very much like a Clayton Bigsby type thing, except he's serious about it.
I'm surprised you know him because you're Gen Z, and that was early 2000s.
But. Yeah, Clayton Bigsby is just an internet classic. Peter Diamond and Jay Dyer 4-hour discussion. The Diamond brothers with Anderson and Dyer. Throw Andrew Wilson as the moderator, and then you have quite the stream.
So I'll say this about Dyer and Steven Anderson. They are funny. I mean, I obviously I don't agree with them. I don't think everything's funny, but they are funny dudes. Peter Diamond, on the other hand, is like wallpaper. I can't get a read on the guy. I just like you know what I mean? Like, I don't know if I could do lunch with that dude. It would just be like pan face the whole time, But anyways,
Most Holy Family Monastery website is interesting.
It is,
to say the least.
Dude, it's just conspiracy central. That's all it is. Wait, did he? I don't know. That's pretty cool if he did.
He did say that. Circa like 4 or 5 years ago. He's on a couch in an auditorium, I believe, during one of his talks, and says, Catholicism is as sane as a person can get. And they pull the clip. I don't even know what the context was. I think it was some Protestant criticism of Catholicism as like, oh God, imagine being a Catholic. And he's like, Catholicism is as sane as it gets.
I will agree with you. So yeah, thank you, Matt. I think Matt, you don't have to super chat to clarify. Just yeah. I mean, I don't mind it. But yeah, if you have more question or questions, just let us know. But so yes, he unintentionally is, not because he's humorous, but just because of the content and the material that we extrapolate from it. That's what makes him unintentionally hilarious. Yes, but touche. Ouch. Ouch. That is, oh, that burns. That just burns, guys.
Is self-imploding heresy detection.
Mm-hmm. I
The
hear
original-
someone jingling silverware and microwaves.
Oh.
Is that you, Luke? No, it's okay. It's
No, no.
okay. You don't have to leave, dude.
No, his family is nearby making sounds.
Oh, it's okay. I don't mind. I was just asking.
So to Matt's original question to me, the second half is: have you thought about taking a view of lust via the 12-step program? Let me Google this so I don't get clipped into the wrong context.
Sorry, Billy. Mea culpa.
But
Forgive me.
I know a lot of secular people do like and find help in something like Sexaholics Anonymous or Sex Addicts Anonymous. And I think anybody, even all stripes of atheism or non-Catholicism, can admit that lust and sexual satisfaction can have some incredibly negative consequences both on other people and internally. And if you're spending all of your time, money, and effort pursuing something, it seems like a very bad life choice, to say the least. And if I'm remembering correctly, Sex Addicts Anonymous, essentially the rule is like you can have sex, but it has to be like planned out and consensual and like not 80 billion times a day. I think I would be on team don't have sex 8 billion times a day, would be my hot take of the week.
Luke, question for you. What's your favorite, whatever that BO2 zombies map?
I don't even know what that is.
Yeah, I don't think anyone but this dude knows what that is.
I'm Googling this BO2 zombies map.
Billy, that's the Latin for my fault. Culpa, culpability etymologically comes from culpa.
Mea culpa, mea maxima culpa, ideo precorbiatum.
Oh, I think it's Black Ops 2, Call of Duty. No, I don't play. I haven't played Call of Duty in ages. I don't think I even played that one. I played like the World War II one once, and that was it.
I played Call of Duty, like the old school Modern Warfare 2 online, and then I got into Halo, and I just thought Halo was better because it was more challenging. That's all I got to say on that, but I haven't played in years.
I grew up with a PlayStation 2, so I was a Battlefront 2 kind of
There you
guy.
go. Halo is based. Communist. It's Cuba. Have you been to Cuba?
Cuba.
Not been to Cuba, but I've been to Bosnia and Herzegovina, so close, but no cigar.
Dude, nice. You've been. Okay, how many countries have you been to? Like, give or take. Give me, ballpark.
I don't think more than 10. Let me see.
Okay.
Italy, Austria, Greece, Bosnia,
You know Mount
Herzegovina,
Athos?
Poland. That's in Greece. Technically still Greece. It's like an autonomous part, though. 5. Brazil, Ecuador, Liberia. So I guess United States, that's 9.
There you go. You got to get the U.S. in there.
Allegedly, you've been.
Yeah. So I think 9.
Nice. All right. Well, guys, I think we're going to head out here because the viewers are dropping like flies, and I'm tired, and we've been doing this for almost 2.5 hours. Not quite, but yeah. Thank you, everybody, for joining and being charitable to our guests, Cade and Luke, and all your support, super chats, likes, subscribes, all that good stuff. Any last words, Cade, before we head out here?
You're a Catholic organization and looking for a videographer. Luke Robinson Media is the move.
Gosh,
Travels
really?
across the country, does good work. works with a number of Catholic organizations. Right now, Luke's below me on this stream. I don't know if Howard's showing up if Luke's over that direction, but Luke Robinson Media is the way to go.
Dude, nice. Yeah, I could be in demand of your
I've helped out
supply.
a number of like Catholic influencers as well. I've done a little bit of work with Matt Fradd, and especially with his wife Cameron. I've done a collab with Religious Hippie for a project that we were working on. So, yeah.
Dude, I'm gonna think of something. I'm gonna cook something up, man, and I'm gonna.
And we can always hop on a call.
Yeah, I'll reach out to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I guess I'll leave my last minute hot take. I think in the age of the internet influence, everyone wants to be Matt Fradd or something like Matt Fradd in the Catholic space, or we have too many armchair apologists, but not enough saints getting out into the world doing good things, I guess.
Dude, man, you just hit a chord in me. Like I couldn't agree more.
It's like everybody. There's something I've been thinking about. It's like, because I need to start a channel for marketing purposes. So I'm like, well, what do I do? I don't want to be like another Matt Fradd talking about theology. It's like that's not my wheelhouse. And it's like anything I do, it's been done a dozen times. But I'm thinking, well, one of the things I thought about was like, well, nobody actually like brings on Catholic business owners, like Catholic millionaires, and then asks them, it's like, well, how do you reconcile being a millionaire and being a Catholic? And like asking them some hard questions, like, well, how do you like fit through the eye of a needle or this or that? Or like the different beliefs about money, because you have like the new polity guys who are like, no, money needs to be used for different purposes. 401ks are intrinsically bad. Like don't do investing. It's like, well, if you don't have money, how can you affect good things in the world and within the church? Because it's like the church is backed by big donors, and like all these nonprofits have big donors. And then I don't know. I think there's a lot of interesting discussion with Catholicism and business. I would like to see happen, or just like mission work, especially with Pope Leo. You have Pope Francis say, "Go out to the peripheries," and now you have Pope Leo, who was a missionary in Peru. And then I think, yeah, there just needs to be more people actually doing things instead of being. I guess I'll say this: rad trads. I'd say don't be a rad trad, be a glad trad. To be a glad trad, you need to just be a good Catholic, but like I'm going to say the meme, but touch grass. Like actually like have some like actually I won't say like be a normal person, but that's kind of what you need to be. Was it Joe Jarrell? I think he talks about it's having social attractiveness. So just like it's just being normal, just like being able to like yes, he talked about like priests will have these characters, like they're not like obsessed with Catholicism. It's just already deeply rooted in them. They're not like obsessed with the trinkets and like these different nuances and stuff like that. It's like they know the faith, they live the faith, but then they can be a person that actually can interact with the world. And it's like if you take like a online rad trad who's always arguing theology and live stream comments and then drop them in the real world with trying to like minister to someone or like just actually like persuade someone on the faith, they wouldn't be able to do that.
Yeah. Do you know who Gabby After Hours is?
Yeah, I've seen some of his stuff. I do want to work with him because he does some good video.
He's super accessible via email. Not to throw too much in there, but if you, I can get you two in contact.
You could get me in contact with him?
Yeah.
Dude,
Kevin
nice.
used to talk all the time about film.
Yeah,
That's another thing I found out in the Catholic world is you just have to ask people. People are more than willing to do stuff.
Okay.
Just ask.
Okay. I have a little something to say about that. So yes and no for me, because some people are like so willing to just answer promptly. Yeah, I'll come on your show, or I'll collab, or I'll do this, or I'll do that. And then there's this other half that just stonewall ignores. I don't understand it. Maybe it's me.
It also depends on who's reaching out. Like, yeah, which one is that? That's not Gurr again.
Isla, or as we call it, Beans. It's the pretty one.
Beans.
The
one and only Joe Heschmeyer replied to my email to come on my show in like a handful of hours. And I was like, oh, Joe's the GOAT.
That's awesome, man. I'm glad you got that worked out. That's great. All right, kids. Pray for Luke, Cade, and yours truly. Okay, we need your prayers. We love you
Cade, are you
guys.
offended by people praying for you? Are you one of those atheists?
Nah, it's a term of endearment unless it's used in a very particular way. But I will take all of the thoughts and concerns that people have, and is often an expression of altruism and wanting the best for somebody. So almost all the time, I take it as a compliment. And if it works out, if it's real, that'd be a cool outcome to have come from it.
Yeah, buddy. All right, guys. Cade, thanks again, man, and Luke. Thank you guys so much for coming on and giving us your time and everything.
Awesome. Great to be here.
All right, guys.
Indeed.
Peace. Praise be
Peace.
Jesus and Mary. Oh, I was just gonna say, Cade, we're gonna force our prayers on you. You don't have a choice, so take that.
Perfect. You got to offer it up. All of your sufferings, I will take the graces of them.
That's how Cade gets Catholics into altar running. He just says, just offer it up as a penance.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, kiddos. Have a good night.
right.
We'll see you Friday night. Kevin, since 33 AD, will be on. So peace, guys. Love you. All right, guys. Thanks a lot.